All right, today we're digging into a radical idea from the 19th century that honestly flips a lot of our modern thinking about education completely on its head. It's this argument that true intelligence isn't just something you find in a book, it's something you build with your own two hands.
Okay, let's just jump right in with this quote because, wow, over a century ago, this was basically heresy. You've got this guy, Charles H. Ham, and in 1900, he's calling the most respected form of education of his day a moral crime. I mean, those are fighting words. So what on earth was he so worked up about?
Well, this was the massive question he was asking. At a time when being educated meant you were memorizing Latin and Greek, Han goes out there proposing a total revolution for the classroom. He was convinced that the real path to a sharper mind and even a stronger character was through the workshop, not just the library. So let's really unpack what Ham was arguing here. He looked at the school system of his time and thought it was fundamentally broken. To him, it was a system that praised abstract ideas while looking down on real-world practical action. And this really gets to the heart of the philosophical battle he was waging. You've got Plato on one side, whose thinking pretty much dominated education, saying that any hands-on, useful work is, degrading. It's beneath a real thinker. But then you have Francis Bacon on the other side, who argued that usefulness is what makes something beautiful. Ham was 100% in Bacon's camp, and he was fighting to bring that value of making things back into the classroom. Ham had a name for the system he was fighting against: subjective education. He saw it as this dangerous echo chamber of ideas, totally disconnected from how things actually work. He argued that by teaching students to have contempt for manual labor, it was creating a whole generation of thinkers who were selfish and completely out of touch with reality. And for Ham, this wasn't just some small, individual problem. No, he saw it as a threat to civilization itself. You can see here, he lays out this whole vicious cycle. He argued that when a society starts to look down on labor, it leads straight to its own ruin. And he pointed to ancient Greece and Rome as his Exhibit A. So if abstract thought was the crime, what was Ham's solution? Well, it all came down to a powerful and what he saw as an unbreakable partnership. Here's the crucial point. In the world of pure thought, it is totally possible to be convincingly, eloquently, and just utterly wrong. Think about it. A flawed argument can sound persuasive. A false idea can be wrapped in beautiful language. The mind, all by itself, can get completely lost. But the physical world, that's a different story. A flawed idea leads to a flawed creation. Period. As you can see, the hand provides an immediate, kind of ruthless test of whether an idea is true or not. And this just perfectly sums up Ham's core belief. The hand is the ultimate fact checker. It doesn't do nuance or persuasion. It's like this moral and intellectual rudder, constantly steering the mind back to reality and away from self-deception. It forces you to be honest with what's real. So for Ham, this was the perfect team-up. The mind could speculate, it could dream, it could imagine and theorize all day long. But the hand was right there to ground all those dreams in reality. They weren't master and servant, they were allies, partners in this search for truth, which he believed wasn't found in some abstract debate, but in real, tangible things. So this brings us to his actual proposal, what he called the new education. This was his system designed to actually build that alliance between the mind and the hand right into the school day. He laid out this really clear, logical path for students. You'd start with the absolute fundamentals, the 7 basic hand tools that he saw as the building blocks of all civilization. From there, you'd move to the forge and foundry, learning how to shape metal with fire. And then finally, you graduate to the machine shop, mastering the very tools that were driving the industrial age. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just about training kids for factory jobs. Not at all. Ham insisted that the #1 goal of manual training was to forge character. See, in the workshop, you couldn't talk your way out of a mistake. The wood either split or it didn't. The joint was either square or it wasn't. He argued that this direct feedback loop taught honesty, justice, and integrity way more effectively than any lecture ever could. Okay, so why are we talking about some guy from the 1800s and his ideas about workshops? Because, believe it or not, this argument is more relevant today than ever. Just look at this slide. The debate has changed its clothes, but the core tension is exactly the same. Back then, it was abstract classics versus the workshop. Today, it's screen time versus the maker movement.
I mean, the maker movement, with its focus on 3D printing, robotics, and coding things in the real world, it's basically the modern version of Ham's workshop. And Ham's work really forces us to ask a pretty tough question about our own time. In our modern focus on digital skills, on coding, on virtual worlds, have we accidentally created a new kind of subjective education, one that's just as detached from physical reality as the one Ham was criticizing all those years ago?
Now, the big takeaway here isn't that we should get rid of digital skills. Of course not. It's about realizing how incredibly ahead of his time Ham was. His call to connect the hand with the mind is the very foundation of modern ideas like project-based learning and, yes, the STEM fields. When we talk about how important technology and engineering are in schools, we are literally echoing Ham's argument that building and testing and creating aren't just job skills. They're essential for a deeper kind of understanding.
Maybe the best way to sum it all up is with this quote that Ham himself used. Our humanity is so deeply tied to our ability to create and to shape the world around us. Our ability to figure things out with our minds isn't separate from our ability to shape the world with our hands. They are and have always been two sides of the very same coin.
This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.